All right, Larry, stage is all yours. This is Edward, not David.
Okay.
I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Okay.
Yes.
First, I have a question. Why does my computer keep dinging? Is somebody trying to contact me through the Zoom
No,
app?
I made you the host. So every time somebody joins the Zoom call, it'll give you a little ding.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. All right. It's 5 minutes after now. We have 120 participants. I'm going to give you another minute or two, and then I'm going to go ahead and start with the talk. I will put it on the board. Somebody let me know when you can see it.
We can see it.
All right. Okay. Some of you that are returning researchers may have seen this before. There are a few small differences in this and the original presentation, primarily caused by the differences between a research proposal and a research report, especially for JEI. What you will find out is there are numerous publishers that we can go to get published for the work that we do. They often have slightly different formatting requirements. And for that reason, I can't include all of their formatting requirements. So I'm including a very generic requirement that can be translated into their methodology as we go along. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So why do we write a research proposal in the first place? So the goals of the research proposal is twofold: to present and justify the need for a research program. In other words, why are we doing this research? Why should anybody care? And how are we going to do it? What are the practical ways in which it should be conducted? So for this reason, there are typically 4 sets of audiences for your research proposal. The prospective sponsor of the research program. In other words, typically, if you're doing research in academia, you're going to go to National Institute of Health, National Institute of Mental Health, National Science Foundation, or some kind of organization like that that gives grant money for various researches. In order to get their grant money, you have to be able to justify to them what you're going to be doing. So this is audience is the prospective sponsors of the research that you're going to be doing. The next thing is there are going to be reviewers that review your paper to decide if it is doing valid research. So this is going to be anybody who looks at the research and says, how good is this research? Next, there are others working in the same field on similar issues. Typically, you're not working in a vacuum. There are other people doing similar things, and you want to give them what your research is going to be doing so that they can either do work to replicate it or they can find something else in the field that could extend your research. And then finally, your own research team. The research proposal contains enough detail so the people on your team know what each person's responsibility is and what they should be doing in conducting the research. A final important reason for writing a research proposal is to provide a template for the research report. which will be the culmination of your work. The more information you put into your research proposal, the more information you will have ready when it comes time to write the final research report. All right. So we're going to sit down and write the research report. Here we go. We're going to go. Now, okay, hold on, guys. Slow down a little. Before you start to write, you need to find out what you're going to be doing, and you need to be able to express that. There were some of you that come in here that say, I want to do SDRP research, but I have no idea what it is. And you either get assigned a research topic by your advisor, or your advisor, if there's somebody like me, gives you a broad set of subject areas and tells you, go out and find a research topic and give me a proposal to do research in that area. Now, if you're going to go out and find a topic, you have to know what you're doing to start with. So how do you start? What is the current state of knowledge in the area that you're investigating? Again, if you have a specific question, these could be, has anybody tried answering the question? What results did they get? What open questions remain based on other people's research? If you're looking for a question in a specific field and you haven't found one, what are the open questions in the field? And can you find one that is both doable? You are still not ready to write, even after you find it. So the first two bullets that you see there, those are something called a lit review, a literature review. You go out and you search for papers either in the general area or in the specific topic, depending on whether it's bullet 1 or bullet 2, on what's being done. And then once you have conducted your literature review, at this point you have between a half a dozen and a dozen articles that describe the various things that's being done in the research community. And so you now start brainstorming. What is the most feasible way to proceed? How do we define our project in detail so that it is doable, it's reportable, and the methodology can be explained to other people? So now that we have decided to do research, we've done our literature review, we've brainstormed our project, we know what we want to do. So what are we going to put in the proposal? What problem are you trying to solve, or what question are you trying to answer? This should be stated as clearly as possible so that the people who are looking at this proposal know what you're trying to do. Why is it important to solve this problem? What benefit does this have to science, society, or general knowledge increase at all? What have others done to solve the problem? This is where you document what you found in your literature review. What are you doing that's new, innovative, or different? Okay, so this is your methods and materials. These are the things that you intend to do and the way that you're going to do it in order to make your research go. And finally, specifically, what do you hope to prove or demonstrate? This is going to be, this cannot be results because you haven't got results yet, but this is the area in which you hope to prove results. So at this point, we have a pile of information that could be used to justify and conduct a research project. Now, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to arrange this so that someone can understand what we want to do? Okay, so a little note here. Research can generally be divided into two categories: data collection and analysis, usually done on a computer or the internet, or experiments, usually done in a physical lab. And it doesn't have to be a wet lab like the SDRP wet lab. It can be any physical area where you're going to conduct experiments. For example, I have some people who are doing autonomous vehicle research. In that case, they're not in the wet lab. They're going and they're drawing lines and making little tracks that represent roadways on a parking lot, and putting up things like stop signs and little buildings that they've constructed. So it's a lab, but it's just a piece of parking lot with some things attached. It doesn't have to be a laboratory setting with equipment. Okay. Your research project could have one or both of these things involved in when you're doing your research. Okay, so now we're going to do the format of the research proposal. Okay, and this is the caveats. Each publishing entity has different format requirements, some specific and some general. And in particular, where we submit more frequently, at least my groups submit most often to JEI. And their formatting requirement is quite different than the formatting requirement in terms of the names of the sections and specifically what goes into each section. But what you will find is that if you can reorder the sections and rename them, typically you can go from our formatting to their formatting with little or no rewrite. So for these reasons, I'm going to only suggest several sections to include in the proposal and their general content. There are numerous okay, so what I'm not going to go into is dotting I's and crossing T's. In other words, I'm not going to talk about linguistic guidelines. There are a lot of linguistic guidelines for research proposal coming everywhere from Modern Language Association to the American Chemical Society to Physics Review. All of these produce guidelines that if you're going to write a proposal for their particular publication, it should be in their format. And so here are a couple of examples. I put JHSS and JYI as two example sites that have recommendations for how to write the report. The idea is that there are lots of formats, so don't get caught up on a particular format until you're ready to publish. Top level. So now we're going to get to the research report itself. This is what we're doing internally. This does not have anything to do with the publishing requirements of the various publishing entities. So the first thing that you want is a title page. Typically that's title, authors, and keywords. In addition to the title, authors, and keywords, for the authors, you're going to have their affiliation. That can be what high school they go to for us, and it can be the affiliation with ASDRP. And when my name is included as an author, it also means that my PhD is shown as what level I have gotten to, and the authors that are the high school students should not have a degree. Typically for our high school stuff, it is required that only the advisor have a college degree and the people writing the report are still in high school and do not have a degree. So that should be shown. Abstract is a brief description of the research. And this is the description from soup to nuts, so to speak. This is what problem you're trying to solve, what others are doing, what you plan to do, and what you hope to show. That should typically be a half a page to 3/4 of a page description. And here's the other one. When we go to JEI, abstract suddenly becomes called summary. So slightly different words. Introduction or background. This is the problem that you're trying to solve. And some justification as to why you want to solve this problem. Current work or competitive landscape. This is from your literature survey, what others are doing now, and what you plan to do to advance the state of the art. Materials and methods is going to be a detailed description of how you're going to address the problem. So any data that you need to collect, you need to describe it in fair detail, your data collection methods, your analysis methods, any software programs. If you're going to use R or SPSS, what the heck is SPSS, or any other statistical or analytical software, you should mention in your materials and methods how you're doing that. Results and conclusions is when you do your data analysis and you come up with certain, you show certain things and you were able to draw certain conclusions from that, that's going to go in this section. And then future work typically is not going to be in your research proposal, but it will be written in your research report. So this is kind of an optional section that says now that we've done this and shown these facts, what's the next thing to show about this? The next section is your references. This is your bibliography. When you did your literature survey, you kept track of all of the places that you went. This is your websites that you went to, any published works that you used, and so forth. So let's look at these one by one and get a little more detail about what you're going to put in each section. Okay, clear descriptive title that conveys the nature of the research. Authors, full name and affiliation of all authors, preferably in order of contribution to research. If all are affiliated with the same organization, simply list the names and address directly after the author. So you can use a footnote style. You can say that everybody is associated. You can have a little subscript on everybody's name, subscript 1, and then subscript 1 is ASDRP. Or you could, if several of them go to different high schools, you can have subscript 2, 3, and 4, Mission High School, Irvington High School, James Logan High School, whatever. So I think I described that in fairly good detail there. Keywords, a list of keywords that someone looking for this kind of research would search for. You can get many of the keywords by using keywords you found in your literature survey. And typically you should have at least 4 and not more than 8 keywords. Those are just general guidelines for writing stuff. And I believe that at least one of the organizations we publish to actually has a fairly strict limit that says at least 4 and not more than 8. Okay, how to write your research proposal and your research report so that you avoid even unintentional plagiarism. If anyone in this organization, that is ASDRP, intentionally commits plagiarism in such a way that they pass off somebody else's work as their own, they will be dropped from the program immediately. And this has happened before, not within my group, but some of the other advisors can tell you the horror stories if you want to hear them sometime. So the first thing is do not include facts or opinions directly gathered from other sites without giving a full and correct attribution. If you're relying on a fact, quote, only published peer-reviewed articles. Do not go to some website and say, this website stated this is a fact, unless that was a peer-reviewed article that reviewers have passed on and validated. Every statement, whether quoted or paraphrased, must have a reference article in your bibliography. In other words, you're going to say, so-and-so said such and such. And then you're going to put a little open bracket 1, close bracket, and then down in the references, item 1 is going to give a cite to that particular article. If you're quoting word for word, use quotation marks. Do not quote full paragraphs, quote only single sentences or short passages that make a single point. If you want to include the information in a full paragraph, you should paraphrase it, quoting only those parts that you wish to emphasize. Each of your references should be numbered, like the example. It may be a URL or a printed article. Okay. So my first reference is to a website. Notice that it is an HTTPS website. You should probably include the HTTPS and everything because there is a certain amount of security there. And the website's mythoughtsthisItem.com, what I say. And so if you quote something from there, that's your reference. Otherwise, if it's a published article, that's number 2, scholarly article on this item. And we want J.author1 and K.author2. They are publishing in the Journal of Applied Science, volume 2, number 1, and it was in May of 1999. You get the idea. If a URL points to a published, peer-reviewed article, include title, author, journal, issue, and date. Abstract. The abstract is a concise, informative description of the problem you're trying to solve. How do you plan to solve this problem, and what are you going to do to prove it? So again, it should be soup to nuts. The abstract may optionally go on the title page, but I would typically recommend against it because by the time you get with our stuff, if you had a title, if you had 1 or 2 authors, you could probably get the title on the top half of the page and the abstract on the bottom. But with 5 or 6 authors per report, and with the multiple organizations that they're affiliated with, multiple high schools and ASDRP, that's going to take, and the keywords, that's going to take up most of the first page. So you're probably just as well off putting the abstract on the second page. Your abstract should be about 3 paragraphs. If it is less than half a page, it is usually too short. If it is more than a page, it is probably too long. Exceptions may exist. So you need to judge that fairly carefully. It often helps not to write the abstract until you've written at least the introduction, materials, and methods. So it should probably be the last thing you write because it's a summary of everything below it. And so it's much easier to write. Once you have all the detail, you can just kind of distill it a little into the abstract. Introduction and current work. Why are we doing this research? Are we doing this just to find something to do to keep us off the street? Is there some value to the research that we're doing? What's the question you're trying to answer? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And why does solving this problem have any benefit at all? Now, there's an interesting thing here. Back in, before research was as big an item as it was historically, if people were looking for pure scientific advances that had no impact at the time on what was going on, people would say, well, why are we going to bother to do that? That doesn't help anything. Well, what we find out is that later on, that scientific knowledge actually bleeds into engineering and craft and other things that help build useful things. And so that can be a motivation for pure scientific research also. You should describe the question you're trying to ask fully, but as concisely as possible. Be specific about what the issue is. Also describe the state of current research. What have people looked for and what have they found? Where does it fall short and where would you like to, why is your research needed to answer the question or solve the problem? What additional things does their research point out that you can shine a light on? You also may state in very general terms how you plan to go about solving the problem. This should be a very brief outline because any detail that you need are going to go in the next section. And this is your materials and methods. So this section should state exactly how you plan to conduct your research. And it's intended for 4 audiences. Your sponsor, who wants to believe what you're doing. Believe me, your sponsor would not be a prospective sponsor if they didn't want to believe in your research. Your objective with what you write here is to explain your research so that they can believe. Your reviewers, who will want to grade the final product and understand how you got to them. Your project team, who you will use the information as a guide to conducting the research. Other research. Okay, I say here that they want to repeat and verify your work, but that's not all. Other researchers are going to look at your work and the results you got, and they're going to say, what can I do to follow on and conduct following research after this? Given that their results, what new results can I now create? So these are the 4 audiences for your materials and method. And in general, the 4 audiences for your research in general. If you're collecting and analyzing data, include what data you're collecting. In other words, I got the specific data set, blah, 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 off of HTTP, blah, 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 or I contacted a researcher at research.university and they sent me some data, or they had some data on their website that I used. So what data are you collecting and what analytical processes are you using? I put everything in an Excel spreadsheet, or I ran it through R, or I did a machine learning algorithm on it. Whatever you're going to do to analyze that data. If you're conducting a physical experiment, all starting materials, the processes that you use, and the assay process that uses to verify it. If you're doing something like the autonomous vehicle stuff, you might even have a picture of the track that you're running on so that people can see how you're arranging your physical experiment. You do not need these now, results. You cannot provide the results because you don't know what they are, but you can say what you hope to show, or you can say how you intend to analyze your data so that you achieve those, so that you can find out whether you achieve the results or not. Do not try to foresee any conclusions. You can say, we hope to prove if X or Y. You don't want to phrase it. We want to prove or disprove X, not just we want to prove X. Future work, leave this out until you write the final report, because then you'll know what additional things that you'll be able to do. Okay, references or bibliography. Each item you found in your literature survey should be listed. So see the slide that on avoiding plagiarism. Avoiding plagiarism and having a complete reference list and referring to it in your text are your strongest ways of avoiding accidental plagiarism. Each item should be numbered in brackets so that you can refer to it in the text of the proposal. Oh, by the way, here's another one where different research reports for the different publishers have different requirements. They will often have different formatting requirements in the references in bibliography. Sometimes they will say MLA 6. MLA 6 is Modern Language Association Edition 6 requirements. And they may say MLA 6, except for this one item, which you must do our way. And I believe JEI says it that way. Do not rely on opinion pieces or unreviewed articles for factual information. If you include opinion from a reference, you should clearly state that it's opinion in your proposal. You should only state something as fact if it comes from a peer-reviewed article. Unless the field is very small, i.e. the field of research that you're doing, and few people are working in it, more references is good. If you can only find a few references, make sure they're high quality and representative. In other words, if I only have 3 references, it must be in a very narrow field. They should all be peer-reviewed articles, and they should be high quality that has gotten some notoriety that says, yes, this is actually good research and the results here are true. So I have gone through and told you what you need to do to write a research proposal. What did I not say? I did not say anything about style or grammar. Everybody produces their own style guides. So if you are planning to submit to a particular publication, use their style guide. If you can't find a style sheet where you are working, the Modern Language Association style guide is as good as any. The other thing is be consistent with tense and verb-noun agreement. Use singular verbs with singular nouns, plural verbs with plural nouns. Don't switch willy-nilly from future to past to present in your writing. Keep it consistent. You can say what we did in past tense. You can say what we plan to do in future tense. But don't just go back and forth from one to the other. So that's pretty much it. So writing a research report. This is the follow-on. The idea, we had several purposes for writing the research proposal. One was to get permission to do this research. The other one was to explain to our team what we're trying to do. But another good reason for starting the research proposal early is it forms a template, or it forms an outline for the research report. Much of the stuff that you have to put in the research report is stuff that you're fleshing out in the research proposal. When you write your research proposal, one of the areas is the materials and methods. The materials and method could very likely change several times during your research. And by keeping that updated as you move along, then when you're ready to put your materials and methods in your final research report, you have an accurate description and you do not have to rewrite. Okay. I have a specific comment about JEI, and that is their section naming and ordering is different from what I presented above, but this should not be a difficulty. Section names are different or in different order, but the content of each section is virtually identical. There are a fewer sections, so there are a couple of places where you have to combine two sections from the research proposal into a single section in the research report, but that's fairly straightforward. There are additional requirements on line numbering, reference formatting, and page formatting. And this can all be accomplished as you move from proposal to report. Typically, JEI requires a line numbered report so that they can refer to the various line numbers when they write their reviews. The important thing is that your proposal have documented the work you plan and now will serve as a guide for reporting the rest of the work. Ta-da! Questions. Can I get questions? Let me see if I can find. Okay. Will this slide deck get posted after the meeting? David, have you got a place to post this slide deck? I will send a copy to our admin, and this is recorded. In order to access the recording, you should go to the calendar, go back to this entry on the calendar, and it will be posted on the calendar entry. Aditi, that one's for you. Do you have any other questions? Just two? So everybody thinks that they have no questions, they understand exactly what to do, they've got this completely under control, and if that's the case, all I'm going to tell you to do is go right. All right, do we have anything else? We have another chat window thingy. I'm only going to say it depends. Okay, Joshman, what area of research are you doing? Are you in computer science and engineering, or are you in one of the wet lab, or are you in some other, what kind of research group are you in? Exoplanet astronomy. I would say for you that I would start with MLA format. The other thing I would look at, okay, I'm not sure who you're going to submit to for your final report. That is going to be up to Robert. I assume that Rob Downing is your advisor. So he's going to be the person who helps understand what area that you submit to. If you're going to submit to something other than one of the high school, if you're going to submit to high school, then you should use either the JEI formatting rules or the rules for whatever high school, JHSS, or if there's somebody else that you want to submit to, whoever their rules are. MLA formatting is just sort of the general formatting methodology for stuff in general. What I'm trying to say is it's kind of the background. If you have more specifics, then you need to look at the specific area that you are submitting to. So I would say go look at the JEI formatting. Unless you're going to submit somewhere else, look at the JHSS formatting, And based on those, if you format the thing approximately according to the slide set that I included here, and if you read either the JEI or the JHSS, depending on whether you plan to submit, you should get a very good idea of what you should be writing in your research proposal. Any other questions? That's Dr. McMahan to you. All right. Anything else? All right, let me see. All right. I was told that there was going to be a quiz, and I was told the admin was possibly going to conduct it, but neither David nor Rob are here. Maybe it's going to be offline. So I am going to leave you guys with the situation now. I believe that if everybody has asked all the questions that they need to ask, I am through. Are you guys okay? Okay, and we will see you at our next meeting. Thank you very much.